Guys, good afternoon. This is a vlog that we have talked about doing for a long time. A lot of you have left comments asking if we were ever going to do a vlog like this, and we kind of thought that now might be the perfect time. And that is our relationship vlog, how Jen and I met, kind of the progression of our relationship, and of course the culmination of where we are today. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the differences between American and Filipino dating etiquette and so forth. Some things that I've experienced that are very different than what we do here in the U.S. It really did take two different tracks there for a while, and we eventually kind of came together in one thought, but it was not an overnight thing for us. We have been married and dating for about 7 years, maybe a little over 7 years. So it's been a journey, but a good journey. It's had its ups, it's had its downs, as all relationships do. And but we're going to talk about that, and I'm probably going to do, as usual, most of the talking. She'll be showing you lots of pictures of things that we've done along the way as I talk about them, our engagement, our marriage, our life. A lot of you are very familiar with our home build, but a lot of you don't know much about what happened prior to that. So being a private person, that's not something I normally would even share, but we've kind of gotten close with so many of you guys. I don't feel like I'm sharing something that's too private anymore. I guess I've kind of loosened up in that area a little bit. So guys, without getting into too much detail, because it does involve an ex-wife of mine, my marriage was kind of coming to an end in 2016, even though I wasn't really in a place where I wanted to admit that. But I was alone for quite a bit of that year, not knowing where things would end up. I'm a relationship kind of guy. I'm not saying I was perfect in my previous marriage as far as doing all the right things. Nobody ever is. I was a workaholic. Spent a lot of my time away working between the Air Force and public school administrator and owning 4 anytime fitness gyms. I was pretty busy, and I neglected other parts of my life. I will say that. I can admit that. That being said, Jen and I kind of made contact with each other initially towards the end of 2016. My separation, although had been separated for many months that year, was official in October of that 2016. Made contact with Jen at some point online, just conversation. Decided at some point after it was very obvious that my marriage was coming to an end. I decided to fly to Southeast Asia, and it's a place I'd never been. All my years of travel with the Air Force, I had never been to that part of the world, so I really wanted to see it. And in the process of traveling there, Jen and I had our first meeting, and had a great, I think I was there for, what was it, a week, baby?
Yeah,
maybe a week. So let me just kind of give you a little advice. Americans are not, we're used to dating. I will say that I had 2 previous marriages, each of them lasting 13, 14 years. I got into those 2 marriages very quickly, and I was determined if I ever got married. Of course, at that point, I wasn't thinking about remarrying and really wanted nothing to do with remarriage. After 2 failed marriages, and I was successful in so many other areas of my life, that area I was not successful. So I was determined to take it very slow. But Jen and I took it very slow. I came to the Philippines when I had time off of work. I also had a home in the Dominican Republic that at least once a year I went to check on, make sure everything was going well there. That had initially been my plan to retire to the Dominican, um, but things change. So first saw her in November, uh, had a great week together. Came back again in March of that next year, 2017, and that was actually the first time I met the family, and that was interesting. Won't get into a lot of detail there. I'll let you see my wife's face, but meeting the family was interesting. Some things happened that kind of threw me back a little bit that I wasn't expecting or used to. But every place is different. Every place's norms are different. I won't go into a lot of detail with that. But the second time I came was in November of the following. No, excuse me, March of the following year. That was actually right before my divorce was finalized. It finalized in April. But that March, on spring break, I had gone. So I did a little surprise, and I had reasons for doing it, but really I just like to surprise people. But I rented a car at Naya. I told her I was coming in on a certain day, but I lied. I came in a couple days earlier and got a rental car. That was interesting because the guy, although I had been to her house up in Coyopo, Nueva Ecija, and once I've been someplace, usually just once, I can find my way back there. I'm usually pretty good with direction. Even though I didn't drive up there that first time, we took a bus and a jeepney and a tricycle and, the whole Philippines public transportation thing. But let me let you see her. Oh, she's so cute. Anyway, I rented a car, got on EDSA, and never got out of first gear. Not once. I stayed in first gear for 3 hours on EDSA. This was before the Skyway was built. And finally got to the NLEX. And of course, from there, it was a pretty quick trip. And then I just found my way to her house in Coyopo and pulled up and kind of shocked her mama, who was outside washing dishes, and began to scream and holler. And before I could even get in the house, Jen had been notified and mortified. She wasn't ready for me to come in, but she very quickly got dressed and eventually came out the door. So I surprised everybody. It was fun. From there, I think we went to Boracay
Yes,
on that trip.
we did.
Yeah, I'd surprised them with a trip to Boracay.
That's our first time in Boracay,
Yeah,
all of us.
yeah. Boracay was interesting back then. It was packed with people. Oh, y'all want to see my mother, everybody? This is our vlog. Oh, she's running back in the house. There she goes. Bye, Mom. Don't you love real life? Anyway, so we went to Boracay, this was pre-shutdown and remodel, if you will. It was packed. I had never seen so many. Oh gosh, a lot of Korean people, Japanese people, Chinese folks, and everyone down on this beautiful beach in their clothes. I just really thought that was hilarious. Nobody had on a bathing suit. Nobody got in the water. It was just people walking up and down the beach in their clothes. So that took a little getting used to. And Boracay was not real, it had really kind of run down, I think, because it just, it's so much nicer now. I will say they did a good job with that. I couldn't believe they shut the island down for 6 months, but it was, I think, for a good cause. So yeah, we went to Boracay with some of her family members, not all of them, but some of them, and we just enjoyed our time there. Jen was working in casinos and as a dealer, and very difficult for her to get time off. Something else to be aware of if you're a foreigner and you're wanting to go see a Filipina. Their job obviously is very important. It's their lifeline. And although we may have a week or 2 weeks off from our job, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to get that kind of time off. So you got to kind of be understanding with that. Jen did some things that just because she really wanted this relationship to work and have opportunities to spend time with me, she did the things she had to do to get off of work. But it's not an easy thing. So I would encourage you, and I didn't know everything at the beginning that she was having to do to get off of work. She didn't divulge a lot of that to me, but over time I discovered what it takes for her to do that. The next time I came to see her was in March of 2018. We went to Naxasa. She surprised me with a trip to Naxasa, which is a beach that you can only get to by a little boat. And but beautiful. Yeah, it's in Zambales. It's absolutely beautiful. The beach is kind of a grayish. It's mixed with Pinatubo ash, and that whole area was destroyed after the eruption, but has really recovered. The foliage and everything has really recovered. But it's absolutely beautiful because the pumice in the sand shimmers. Kind of has a shimmering look to it, and if there's a full moon, it almost kind of glows at night. It's really kind of unique. If you've never been to Naxasa, that's a trip you got to take. We did Naxasa. I think we stayed in Conrad for a couple of days as well, down there near Moa.
That was my first time.
That was your first Conrad stay?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the breakfast buffet. That's something else, guys. Let me give you a heads up about Filipinas and buffets. I'm assuming this is Filipino wide. They love buffets. And although my wife, who I never could figure out how she could eat as much food as she does,
she love food,
yeah,
guys.
she loves food. It's normal when we go to a buffet for me to get one plate, and I'm full when I'm done with it, and I'm fighting to finish it, and she gets 4 or 5 plates and goes back for seconds. So I never understood that. Funny, she'd finish a plate and then stick it over in front of me so that the waiter would think it was me that ate it. So
Yeah, I do that.
I think that's probably a thing. I don't know why, but it is. So just don't be too shocked like I was the first time you see your skinny girlfriend, consume half the buffet. That would put most buffets out of business here in the U.S. The next time I came was in July of 2018. I had a hard time getting used to the idea of her commuting. She was working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, and getting one day off and then having to commute to Cuyapo by bus and jeepney and tricycle, 6 hour commute, and sometimes even longer if it were a holiday weekend, just to be able to spend a few hours with Genesis and her family and then go right back to Manila. It was driving me nuts. So I kind of helped her to locate a home nearer Soler where she was working, so that she could make that trip a little easier. She would still probably stay in a bed space when she was working, but at least she would have a little more time at home with her family instead of going up to Cuyapo. So that trip, that's kind of what we did. We searched for something, and we did find something. We ended up buying a home in a development called Belladia, which was a San Miguel Properties, row housing basically. And then in June of the next year, 2019, we took our first international trip together. We had tried to get her a tourist visa and was turned down by the U.S. As usual, and they had told her, usually sometimes they don't tell you why they're turning you down, they just turn you down. But in this case, they actually told her that the reason they were turning her down is because she had not been out of the country, and she was trying to explain to the guy that that's why she was applying for a tourist visa to go meet my family in the U.S. But he said no. So we decided, okay, next time we meet, we're going to meet in Bali, and that's what we did. We went to Bali, and had a great time. What a beautiful, beautiful place. Really enjoyed that. So we started that process of getting her outside of the Philippines and returning, of course, to her job afterwards. The next time we were together was we met in Singapore.
We enjoyed the Universal Studio
Yeah, went to
and
Universal
of course
Studios.
Marina Bay Sands.
Yeah, stayed at Marina
Very
Bay Sands for half the time and another Holiday Inn, right? Yeah, and we stayed in a Holiday over the Indian section. Great food. Really enjoyed our trip there. Singapore's nice. Um, really, really nice place to visit. Very, very, very expensive. So if you do go there, just be prepared. Nothing, kind of like the U.S. today. It's everything's really, really expensive. So just be prepared for that. We did go to Hong Kong in 2018. This is before all the protesting and the China trying to take it over, and so we kind of got there, in under that line. We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Hong Kong's was easy to get around, reasonably priced, and we just had a good time.
Yeah.
So after all that international tripping, we tried again to do a tourist visa for her, again, so she could come and meet my family. At this point, it had been about 2 years since we've been dating, and thought it would be nice for her to be able to meet my family. But she was again turned down by the U.S. Embassy with no reason this time. So even though she had, she had a home in the Philippines, she had a good job in the Philippines, she had a child and a family in the Philippines, and had shown that she would leave the country and return, we ticked all the boxes. They still turned her down. That we kind of gave up on. All right, so after Singapore, COVID hit. We talked about, like I shared with you, I was very, very slow to come around to the whole relationship idea. I enjoyed being with Jen. I really cared for her. I was falling in love with her. But I was trying to be very careful. Didn't want to. I didn't want to fail again, I guess you could say. But there's really no way to know. There is no way to know if a marriage is going to be successful. I don't care who tells you what and how. It just takes a lot of work. Anyway, COVID hit, and I couldn't go. I couldn't get to the Philippines to see her. So a year or so went by, and we had discussed, actually, as we were dating, that maybe we would live together for a year after I retired before we decided to marry, because she also wanted to make sure that it was the right choice, that I was the right person for her son. We're both, I guess, cautious. But at some point, after not being able to be with her for over a year, I just kind of nixed all that. I had already retired in 2020 from the Air Force. I retired in 2020 from Texas Public Schools. I had sold my last gym, my fourth gym. I had sold it in November of that year. So I really had wrapped up everything. Had already sold my home, most of my belongings. I had sold. I was staying with my mom and dad, helping them out during this COVID thing, because they're in their 80s. And December 31st of 2020, I went up to see a buddy of mine, who you've met in a previous vlog, in Jay, Oklahoma, Luke Wright. It's a retired Air Force buddy of mine. And I asked him to kind of be there with me on New Year's Eve, as I made a Zoom call to my wife, at the time, my girlfriend, right before midnight, honey?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
So right before midnight, I did a Zoom call with her, and right at the stroke of midnight in the Philippines, I asked her to marry me. And I had kind of done a little thing, just talking about our relationship and our history, and why I thought it was a good idea if we just got married. And so I had a ring. I had ordered a ring. It had come in, so I had to show her the ring on Zoom, And initially, she didn't say yes right off the bat. She made me wait for a little bit during that call. But at some point, she did say yes to me. So there, that's when we decided to take that leap. Now, after that, things began to move quickly. The Philippines had just right after that, they had said, we're going to start letting spouses in. So um, we talked about how we would go about doing the marriage thing. We had to be married before I could come because Philippines wouldn't allow me in just as a fiance. So we looked into options, and really the only option for us was an online wedding. And I looked at a couple of different online wedding uh, groups, and I picked the wedding people to do our wedding. I contacted them, applied online, made my payment, set up the date. We decided for January the 8th because an 8 turned on its side is infinity. Did I come up with that or did you?
You did.
I did. It's because I'm such a romantic. Anyway, so January 8th, literally 9 days after we got engaged, we got married online. And Jen was in the Philippines. I was in Texas. And the wedding officiator, Mr. Ziegler, I believe was his name, was in England. And the wedding itself is through the state of Utah. So super international Zoom call. Her family was there. My parents were there. Luke was online. Yeah, we just had a representation of friends and some family, those that wanted to take part. And we did our vows and we got married. I then, as soon as my marriage license came from the state of Utah, I did a form and a little package and sent it off to the consulate, the Philippine consulate in Houston, because the way they had done it, letting spouses in, they made you apply for a 9A visa, a tourist visa, as a spouse. And I did apply, and I got approved literally a week before I was to fly to the Philippines. So my flight was on the 14th of February, and I got my visa maybe 5 days before that. So cutting it really close. The day of the flight, we had a huge winter storm come through North Texas. Got on the plane, and as we are getting de-iced before the flight took off, the captain came on and said, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last plane to leave Dallas-Fort Worth. They are shutting the airport down because of the ice and the weather. It was minus 9 degrees that day, I think. Cold, cold, cold for us. Yeah, so I was the last flight to get in the air and got to LA. Crazy walk at LAX to get to my plane. When a guy with double knee replacements, it was challenging. I almost didn't make it. I don't do the whole wheelchair thing. I probably should if I were smart, at least at LAX, but I didn't. But everything happened. I had a little bit of trouble at the Philippine Airlines desk, just they wanted to double, triple, and quadruple check all my documents. But I had everything. I had everything they could possibly ask for, because you know how if you've ever flown to the Philippines, it's nuts sometimes what they want to see, and yeah, it's very different than flying in the U.S. or to anywhere else for that matter. But got on the plane. When I landed in the Philippines, it was quarantine. How many days? 7 days?
7.
7-day quarantine. Because I'm disabled, the hotel, Golden Phoenix, across from MOA, allowed Jen to stay with me to help me, because sometimes I have a hard time getting in and out of bathtubs and getting clothes on and this, that, and the other. So we actually were able to see each other. So we got to spend 7 full days just uninterrupted, couldn't leave. Finally got my test back, and we were released, and off to Cavite we went. When we got to Cavite, I thought, guys, I was going to be okay. This is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath row housing. But after just a matter of weeks, I realized I needed some room. Of course, her family was living there with her. Her younger brother, her younger sister, her younger sister's baby, her mother, her son, me, and her, all in that house. And there was nowhere to go. They still wouldn't let kids leave homes. They wouldn't let seniors leave home. I was going stir crazy, not having a yard or anywhere to go out into. And they were talking about locking Manila back down again. And I looked at Jen and said, we got to get out of here. So we found a place in Balonga, Bataan to rent. And, we loaded up the whole house in one day on a Sunday. By Sunday at midnight, they were locking Manila down. And I think we pulled out, 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just got out of Manila before they locked it down. Getting into Bataan, they didn't want to let us in, but we managed to get in, and we got moved in. And spent a little over a year and a half, I think, in Bataan. During that time, we looked for land to possibly buy. I discovered about 8 months in that Bataan is just really, really expensive property-wise, and that if we bought any property there, we wouldn't have money to build a home. So we nixed that, and I think most of we decided at that point to go up to start looking in Nueva Ecija. And we did find property, and y'all have all been on that journey with us, where we built that home. And we've been in our home in Nueva Ecija for about a year, and continued to travel. We like to do our little months anniversary thing, even though what month are we, 28, 29? Yeah, we're well past 2 years, and something happened on one of those trips. I don't know what, but
Thailand.
yeah, we were in Thailand, and I guess romance bug hit us, and guys, we are having a baby. Yeah. So my wife and I, this is not buffets, although it could easily be, but it's not. We're having a baby. And we just found out yesterday, we decided to do a 5D ultrasound. Yesterday. Yeah. And just so we could see what we were having. And it turns out we are having a boy. Yeah, we're having a boy. Which is kind of a crazy thing for the Baker family here, because we have no boys.
Yes.
The Baker name was basically going to end right here with me. My brother didn't have any boys, and I didn't have any boys. I had all girls, he had all girls. But that's changing in about 5 months. 4 months. Yeah, 4.5 months. So sometime in October, first part of October, we will have a Baker boy.
First grandson.
First grandson, yeah.
For mom and dad.
And we have decided to name our baby boy Benjamin William Baker. And that is both of my grandfather's names. My mom's dad was Benjamin. My father's dad was William. And yeah, that's where we're going. So we're really excited about that. And it's happening quickly, a lot faster than I expected. But
I'm just full, honey.
yeah. So I will be 59 years old, almost 60. I turned 60 in December, and I'll be a new father. So
Happy Father's Day, honey.
Thank you. Anyway, we just wanted to kind of share that journey with y'all. We've never done that in our vlogs, but that's it. That's how we met. We took our time. A lot of it was me, just being really cautious. And guys, those of you, a lot of the guys that watched my vlog have been through divorces and have found love in the Philippines, or maybe you're looking. I did this very differently. I did not rush into anything. Jen and I did not rush into anything. Although we still didn't, even when we married and finally moved in together, we still had a lot to learn about each other. And yeah, we've dealt with the age gap. It's a real thing, generationally. I come from a whole different generation than Jen does. But when you want something to work, and you you're willing to do what you have to do to make that work. And that's really what her and I have done. We're by no means have we, experienced everything in this relationship, but we're both willing to give it what it takes, and we give and take. And a lot of times it's a compromise. And but she knows I'm pretty settled in my ways, although I do try to be flexible. But when you've been on the earth for 60 years and have already done all your careers and you've hit the retirement mode, so you can be a little stubborn in your ways sometimes. But she's been pretty understanding in that and tries to work with me. So I just wanted you guys to know that we are by no means is this the perfect marriage, the perfect relationship. Neither one of us are perfect, but we want this family to make it, and this baby is just another testament to us being able to make that last. So I hope you enjoy sharing in the good news with us. We're pretty excited about it, and I know this is a long vlog. She's going to put lots of pictures and things in it, so hopefully it won't be just me talking the whole time without something visually attractive. But anyway, yeah, we want to say goodbye. And
Okay, I can reach
no,
you,
she
baby.
can. Oh God! See,
Sorry,
our
guys.
tummies. It's our tummies. I'm not having a baby, but my tummy's as big as hers. So there you go. We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
We love you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Do you remember how we kissed in the kitchen as the coffee pours? By the end my face was sore from your stubble, but I still wanted more. And all the miles that we spent in the air, where we're going I don't care. I'm just so glad that you were there that night in the restaurant, because I got to say,
The good, the bad, the Philippines.
what are we gonna do?